Today, I want to talk about a question that I asked myself a couple of weeks ago and something I've been thinking about a lot. It's this idea of how come I don't see people for who they actually are? How come I build up different versions of them in my head? And looking back on some of the past, people in my life, I realized that I miss very obvious things, things that are obvious to the people around me, um, that I seem to overlook or don't see or assume are different when they're so obvious to those other people around me. And realizing that I do this a lot and build up a lot of people in in my mind as well, and almost build them into these perfect versions of what I see and what I want them to be. And I don't necessarily do it with everybody, but I've noticed and reflecting on it, I've done it with some really important relationships in my life. And as I looked into it, as I reflected on it, what I realized is, or what I think, at least at this point, is looking at myself and realizing, as we all do, there's different parts of me. And I would connect with people on different parts. And whether that be my humor, whether that be my intellect, whether that be, my love for business, whether that be my love for self improvement and self development. And when I would find somebody who was able to meet a couple of those, I would have this feeling of not being alone anymore. And, finding somebody that I felt was like me. And this has come from, entire lifetime of feelings of loneliness and, feeling like, necessarily that I'm different or that I don't belong, along those lines. And so what I realized, or what I think that I would do and have a tendency to do, is then gloss over the different sides of them, of, maybe their morality or how they treat other people or um, whatever it might be, their shortcomings or things that are dissimilar to me, that are different from me. And I would assume and place my values and project my values and how I operate and how I think onto them. And what it led to is two things. One, building people up in my mind and building them up, putting them on this pedestal of they're so far ahead, they have all this knowledge, and taking away the fact that everybody is human and everybody has these sides to them. Everybody has good and bad. Everybody's good and bad at different things as well. But because of how much I built them up in my mind, they could do no wrong. They were good at everything. Um, and there was never time to question or what they were doing or what they were saying. And it was kind of taken as law in my mind. Um, and it led to the second thing, which is a lot of times living in extremes and being very, again, putting them up on that pedestal to finally, when everything comes crashing down and I have a big realization that they can't live up to this, perfect standard that I've set for them, because nobody can, because nobody's perfect. And then my mind would automatically take it the other way and would push against them, and would see that there's no value in them, or whatever it might be. But it was always all or nothing. There was no in between. There's no gray. There's no room for them to be human. And looking back on it, I've realized, I think that this contributes a lot to why I've had such close relationships with a smaller amount of people, because of this dynamic of wanting them to be everything, to be able to, kind of satisfy my needs in all the different buckets of how I think of it, of, whether it be my ambition or my social needs, even just socializing with people, or, my competitive side, all these different sides to me. And this feeling of needing to find one person who can cover all of that. And this is what's really changed for me in the last couple of weeks thinking about this and coming to the realization that it's not necessarily fair to expect somebody to fill every single one of my needs, and that I need to be responsible for filling my own needs. And it's also allowed me to change my thinking on, relationships, friendships, whatever it might be, to knowing that I can have friendships and relationships with people that only, serve a couple of my buckets, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. They don't have to be this all or nothing. It's not one person. It's not, oh, they've let me down. They can't keep up with me, or, they don't see eye to eye with me on this set of, whatever it is. And it's really been helpful even in the short amount of time that I've come to the realization of it doesn't need to be one person fills all of my needs. And actually in this, whatever it is, conversation with myself, that realization that I need to be the one to fill those needs. Um, so yeah, so just I wanted to share that because it's been super helpful for me of, you know, taking a step back, realizing that I build people up and really trying to see who they actually are instead of, making them be who I want them to be. Um, because it always just sets me up for a big letdown, which is of my own doing. You can't expect anyone to be perfect because nobody is perfect, and perfection isn't something that's attainable. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to share that, share my thoughts with that, and I'm looking forward to digging into this deeper and giving this more thought, and hopefully having some more complete thoughts around it.